look at manufacturing examples because they're the more complicated of the equation, but a lot of what I'm about to say is equally applicable to services. So if you are looking at the three possibilities now, hard Brexit, further delays, no Brexit. Hard Brexit, you've seen a lot of press about tariffs, 10% on motor vehicles, 40% on agri-foods. There's also a whole host of tariff inversion issues. So for example, 10% on a vehicle is finished product, but there's about 30% on the batteries for electric vehicles. And do you pay the 30% on the battery coming in and then the 10% on the car going out? Because that makes your value chain very, very complicated to work out. Hence, there's a lot of talk about free ports and free zones now. You've also got local content rules to deal with. So if we did become a third country, we wouldn't be manufacturing EU goods anymore, and you'd have to figure out how much was manufactured here, how much was from a supply chain outside of here, make the relevant declarations, which leads you on to classification codes. So everything has its own unique classification number, and you have to figure that out. And that can get quite complicated. We ran a scenario for a small company that does trade fairs around Europe. And everything that they put in the back of the van and take across the border would need to be on a customs declaration. But they were giving free T-shirts out for, typical trade show. And the male T-shirts, female T-shirts, the children's T-shirts all had separate classification codes. But actually, as soon as you put the logo of the company on them, it changes the code. So you've got to work things out. And they worked out for a trade show to take your basic stands, electrical equipment, and free giveaways, somewhere in the region of 300 classification codes. Then you've also got to have the right paperwork for the vehicles. So at the minute, unfortunately, we've only got 5,000 registered vehicles in this country capable of crossing an EU hard border. It's 10,000 crossings a day at Dover, so that might be a bit complicated. And then you've got your driver's paperwork. Now that sounds horrendous, but actually you can deal with that pretty easily if you either get trusted trader status or simply outsource to a freight forwarder with trusted trader status. That can be dealt with. But I think the most common law that I'll be quoting for the rest of my career is the law of unintended consequences. I hadn't thought of that. That's why I put WPM up. And we always do a throwout and say, RTC people can't answer this because they've heard it before. Does anybody know what WPM stands for? Wood Packaging Material Rules. Something that I didn't even know about until the No Deal papers came out. It's a subset of rules in the EU under the phytosanitary heading, which deals with crossings of plants. And, you see it at the airports and port crossings, don't bring in any plants that could bring diseases, etc., etc. The WPM subset of that applies to all wood and most cardboard, which means that every wooden pallet, every wooden crate needs to be treated and stamped accordingly. So you could get through all of the complexities, either yourself or with a trusted trader, and still not be allowed to cross the border because your packaging wasn't right. So potentially bad news, the complexity. Good news, hard Brexit's diminishing as the clock ticks by. So if we have further delays, business as usual. Nothing changes. The laws stay the same. You've still got the same business trading environment. No Brexit, business as usual. Laws stay the same trading environment. I'm not dismissing the fact that market volatility and political volatility in particular will be messy. And actually, back to the law of unintended consequences, the effect on society will be horrendous. But in terms of your business landscape, nothing changes. And that seems to be a point that people haven't made forcefully enough.